Neil Magny versus Anthony Rocco Martin takes place on the main card of UFC 250 Nunes versus Spencer. And I'll be honest with you guys, in my original full card prediction video, I picked Neil Magny to win this fight because he's rangier, he's longer, I thought he was more experienced, he's fought better opponents. But I'm changing my mind. I'm picking Anthony Rocco Martin to win. Every time, and I will say this before we get into this video, just as a little bit of a disclosure, every time I change my mind on a fight last minute, I'm wrong. I'm hoping that this one will break the curse of that happening, because I just don't see a way that Anthony Rocco Martin is going to lose this one. I really don't. I think I was wrong to say Neil Magny was going to win in the first place. I overestimated Neil Magny, and I didn't really see him for what he was, which is a stepping stone. He's a gatekeeper. He doesn't have the potential to run towards the title. In my opinion, Anthony Rocco Martin does. Okay? I was wrong, guys, and I do apologise, but I'm switching over to Anthony Rocco Martin. I think he's going to edge out Neil Magny in a very boring decision and get it done by minorly outstriking Neil Magny every single round. I just don't see a way that Neil Magny's going to do it. I was looking through his resume and his record recently. Yes, he beat Li Jingliang, and it was a great win, but was that the best performance of Li Jingliang's career? I'm sure we all came away from that fight thinking to ourselves, what was the game plan from Li Jingliang? It looked like he just wanted to eat punches against the cage and allow Neil Magny to win this fight. However, I give him credit for beating Li Jingliang. But then I look at some of these other fights. Name a relevant name in the welterweight division right now that Neil Magny has a win over. Ponzinibbio, lost to him. Craig White, 14-7, came into the UFC on short notice from the UK, from Cornwall. Has a part-time job. Got destroyed by Neil Magny when Magny was supposed to fight Luke at Liverpool, UFC Liverpool. Or Gunnar Nelson, I can't remember what fight it was supposed to be. But even still, beat Craig White. That doesn't really mean anything to me. Beat Carlos Condit. Same Carlos Condit that was making a run towards the title. We saw what happened to Carlos Condit now. You know, not quite as relevant. Rafael dos Anjos got smushed by him. I would pick Anthony Rocco Martin to beat Rafael dos Anjos. Just saying. Johnny Hendricks. Decision. Same Johnny Hendricks. It just seems to me that Neil Magny is not going to win this fight. I have no idea why I picked him in the first place. I am a sucker for reach in fights. I feel like if there is a stand-up fight, a fighter who doesn't quite have the same boxing skill as the other fighter, if they do have a much longer reach advantage, they will have the advantage. However, when I watch Anthony Rocco Martin fight, there's a lot of tools that he brings to the table that isn't just his boxing. He has some lethal calf kicks. Neil Magny has really skinny legs, and he plants his feet when he throws combinations. I feel like the calf kicks from Anthony Rocco Martin are going to be there for him. I'm changing my mind full force here. I think Anthony Rocco Martin is going to get the job done. Originally, I was kind of basing it on the fact that Neil Magny was looking to take a fight against Marvin Vettori on short notice, showing that he was ready. But then I kind of caught myself and thought after the video when I made it that, hang on a second, clearly Anthony Rocco Martin is ready if he's signing to fight with Neil Magny. He trains at the other ATT gym, who has another fighter on this card in Rafael Assunção, who's been training this entire time for the fight. So clearly that gym is on all systems go. I've seen the countdown. They're definitely not following social distancing rules. But either way, I agree with them not following them because I want to see great performances. Anthony Rocco Martin's going to win this fight. I never pick against him. And I've been right. How many times? 5 times out of 6 at welterweight. And I was so close to being right against Damian Maia. In fact, if that was a 5-round fight with Damian Maia, which a lot of Damian Maia fights are, where a lot of these guys get the jump on him, Rocco Martin would have beat Damian Maia in a 5-round fight. If you're telling me that Maia would have survived that 4th round against Anthony Rocco Martin, I'd be a little bit concerned with your brain, because Anthony Rocco Martin was coming strong in that 3rd round, and when you look at what Damian Maia was able to do to Neil Magny, and I know it might be a different version of Damian Maia, but not really. The Damian Maia that showed up against Gilbert Burns was already talking about retirement. As Dana White always says, if you're talking about retirement, it's time to retire. Okay? The Damian Maia that showed up against Anthony Rocco Martin still had some hope. He had a win against Lyman Good, then he beat Anthony Rocco Martin. Now he's thinking, hang on, if I win one big fight next, I could maybe be looking at another run towards the title shot. It's a different Damian Maia, but the one that fought Neil Magny, very good as well. But what I'm trying to say here is the one that fought Anthony Rocco Martin is also a damn good Damian Maia. Damian Maia completely obliterated Neil Magny. I respect that Neil Magny is dangerous. I respect that he is a veteran. I respect that he has learned a lot since his loss to Damian Maia. But I also understand that Lorenz Larkin losing to him, you know, in 2016, although this is a while ago, guys don't fall out of their prime that much. Other guys just get better than them. That's kind of how it works. Anthony Rocco Martin is going to beat Neil Magny. He's going to overcome the range disadvantage because Neil Magny is a guy. Even though he beat Li Jingliang, I watched the fight again. It was a great performance, don't get me wrong. I wasn't ridiculously impressed by it. I'm looking at Anthony Rocco Martin's recent resume. I'm seeing names that are much better than anyone Neil Magny has beaten. Look at their last 4 wins. Li Jingliang, Craig White, Carlos Condit, Johnny Hendricks. Carlos Condit and Johnny Hendricks on the slide at that point as well, and Craig White not even worthy of being mentioned on a resume because it's basically like an exhibition fight where he's paid to lose. But even still, Anthony Rocco Martin's last 4 names on his resume. Ramazan Emeev, a guy who's 18-3 at the time, fought light heavyweights to get into the UFC just so he could cut down to welterweight and fight Anthony Rocco Martin in his home of Russia, and Anthony Rocco Martin still got the jump on him. Ramazan Emeev is a guy who has beaten 12-2 guys at UFC Fight Nights, and then before that he beat Alberto Mina, who was 13-0, and before that he fought a guy who was 24-2 in M1 to get into the UFC. You know? Other great recorded guys, Vasilij 26-2, another amazing fighter over at M1. Ramazan Emeev got the jump on him. Anthony Rocco Martin simply just outstruck Ramazan Emeev every single round. I think he's going to do the same thing to Neil Magny despite the reach disadvantage. I think he's going to chop away at the calf kick, which Neil Magny sits at a very wide stance with, because Neil Magny here is going to be way taller, and when guys are taller in the ring, you notice it quite often. A lot of times it's the same with Israel Adesanya. When you watch Adesanya versus Whittaker, it's hard to even tell that Adesanya is 4 inches taller than him, because these taller guys like to be level with their opponents. They spread their base. They stay nice and long still, but even Aljamain Sterling in the bantamweight division. A real tall, long guy, but that base widens itself. Same with Neil Magny. I feel with the calf kicks of Anthony Rocco Martin, he's going to be able to get this one done. He's got the patience to make it boring. And I think that's how you kind of got to beat Neil Magny on the feet. And I think that's what Neil Magny's not going to submit Anthony Rocco Martin. That's not going to happen. Anthony Rocco Martin avoided being submitted by Damian Maia. You know? Neil Magny's not going to submit Anthony Rocco Martin. Anthony Rocco Martin avoided being submitted by Sergio Moraes, and even had Sergio Moraes in some dangerous positions on the mat as well. And Sergio Moraes is a beast of a jiu-jitsu practitioner, so much so that Usman decided to stand and strike with him. Do you understand where I'm coming from here? This resume for Anthony Rocco Martin and Jake Matthews as well. Another guy in the welterweight division right now, I believe on a 3-fight win streak against great names. Is he on a 3-fight win streak? He's on a 2-fight win streak, but he's won 5 out of his last 6 fights and only lost to Anthony Rocco Martin in between those. Another win, Ryan LaFleur. It's a good name. You know, maybe on the slide, but still a good name. Sergio Moraes, Jake Matthews, Ramazan Emeev. I'm just saying, Anthony Rocco Martin to me seems like the guy who's improving more between fights. I shouldn't have picked against him in the first place. He trains with a great gym. I think he's going to get the better of Neil Magny. There's just something about his striking that's so patient, and he's so okay to be boring, that I can't bet against him. If you're okay to be boring, your fight IQ is through the roof, in my opinion. Look at Mayweather. Never an interesting fight, other than some here and there in between, if you know what I mean. Fight IQ. You don't give a fuck about the crowd booing. You don't give a fuck about this. Anthony Rocco Martin's going to outstrike Neil Magny in that first round. I think if he invests well with those calf kicks, he's going to be able to limit the movement of Magny. He's going to be able to stop Magny putting all of his weight on his lead leg to start throwing those hands. And eventually he's going to get the better of Neil Magny. He's strong against the cage. He's got great takedown defense. He's got great jiu-jitsu defense. I don't see a way of Neil Magny finishing him. And if the grappling in the Li Jingliang fight is anything to be aware of, you know, although Magny did well in that fight, there were certain situations that he was in with Li Jingliang where if you can't take advantage of Li Jingliang in those situations, you're not going to take advantage of Anthony Rocco Martin. I believe that Anthony Rocco Martin would beat RDA right now. I cannot say the same about Neil Magny. I don't know where Anthony Rocco Martin's ceiling is. I know exactly where Neil Magny's ceiling is, and that's the rankings. Even though I think he should be ranked. it's very clear to us right now that Neil Magny is just not quite good enough to make it into the rankings. He loses every single time he gets a jump up. I'm following trends. I'm seeing a trend in his career. And I think that Anthony Rocco Martin is going to bounce back after his Maia loss. First he fought Ramazan Emeev, such a fucking dangerous opponent. Such a dangerous opponent. I'm almost picking this fight just based on that. He outstruck Ramazan Emeev every single round in Russia and got the decision. Ramazan Emeev is such a beast. I was paying attention to him before he even got in the UFC. And Rocco Martin went out there and won because I fucking said he was going to win. Whoever wins this fight is in a real good position in the welterweight division, because there's a lot of guys right now that need opponents. And if Anthony Rocco Martin can get a big win here and have some entertaining moments on the microphone, which he does because he's got that weird voice which makes everything sound somewhat entertaining, I think there's maybe a fight with Michael Chiesa to be had. Neil Magny versus Michael Chiesa if they win this one. I think if Neil Magny wins this one, they're probably going to do Jeff Neal versus Neil Magny. I can't pass up the opportunity to have two Neils in one ring. I think that would be an amazing situation. But if Anthony Rocco Martin wins, he definitely deserves to be ranked. The winner of this is going to be ranked 100%. If Anthony Pettis is still ranked at welterweight and McGregor is ranked at welterweight and fucking Jeff Neal is ranked at welterweight, I'm sure we can find some fucking space for the winner of Neil Magny versus Anthony Rocco Martin. Even still, Rocco Martin's going to get the job done. Magny's not much of a finisher. I don't think there's many people in the division that could out-decision Anthony Rocco Martin. I wouldn't mind a fight between Anthony Rocco Martin and Leon Edwards. I know Leon Edwards would destroy Neil Magny. I think it would be a close fight between him and Anthony Rocco Martin. I am on the Rocco train. I think he's going to win this fight. I apologise sincerely to him and his family members for jumping off and going with Neil Magny just based on reach. But I watched some Neil Magny fights again, including some of his finishes they put on YouTube. Never impressive. And Rocco Martin impresses me every single time and wins fights that, even though I'm picking him to win, I know are very, very dangerous opponents. He's taken on the who's who of the welterweights recently. In his last 3 wins, Jake Matthews, Sergio Moraes, Ramazan Emeev, those are good names. And he just cleanly outstrikes all of them and gets it done. I think Rocco Martin's going to get the job done. He's got a piston of a left hand. He's got great kicks behind it as well. He's very patient. I think he's going to have Neil Magny guessing. He's going to slam away at the calf kick early. And he knows exactly how to win and just be just ahead of you every single round to secure himself a very boring 30-27 unanimous decision against Neil Magny. I think he's just going to chew up the legs. Look at Neil Magny's resume, though. There's no relevance. Dos Anjos lost to him. Johnny Hendricks, Big Mac version of him. Lorenz Larkin lost to him. Hector Lombard is a win. That's in 2000. Kelvin Gastelum at welterweight. Split decision. You know, Eric Silva. You know, like, these wins just don't mean anything to me anymore. So I don't know how good Neil Magny is. And I don't know if the Li Jingliang win means that he's going to make a run towards the title. I feel like Anthony Rocco Martin could be top 10. I'm going with Anthony Rocco Martin for the win. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. Click that button there. Goodbye.